It's finally happened. The regular season has come to a conclusion, and this is going to be the breakdown of not just how they did this week, because quite frankly, this week is not anything that the Kansas City Chiefs want to write home about. So I actually changed it all up, and we're going to take a deeper dive into where they are as the season. If you're new, my name is Ryan, and this is Ryan Going Rogue, my channel all about the NFL and the Kansas City Chiefs, along with my team here at RGR. We welcome you here. If you are new, make sure you hit the like and the sub and the bell notification so you know what's coming next. We'll have film for you tomorrow. We'll have game plan next time they're about to play. We'll have live streams post-game and the Monday night Q&A, as well as stat reviews and the draft process, where I featured the athletic matrix put out by my company, Rogue Analytics. A lot of draft information coming in the offseason, but for now, we have to look at where the Chiefs began and ended their regular season. Now, because of all the rested players, it's one thing if you rest a quarterback, but given the volume of players that they rested for Week 17, I threw Week 17 out. And I went back to look at weeks 1 through 16, the Chiefs' first 15 games, in order to compute their stats against the rest of the league for the season and produce some things I think are really going to open your eyes here later in the show. But to begin with, I just want to get started with some of the things that we have tracked all season long. And at the end of the day, end of the season, the Chiefs ended with a pretty stout 6.42 yards per play in those first 15 games. That is good enough for third in the NFL. Yes, the Packers are a touch ahead of them. That's why they're the top seeds. But this is very, very reminiscent of a Chiefs team that can go down and score on anybody. Very efficient all season long. You've seen me tout it, and it is paying off in the long run. Another nice thing is when you even it all out, over 2,300 snaps by the rookies, and there was a ton more, probably well over 250, bringing us to over 2,600 for the rookies in the regular season in 2020. But through the first 15 games, it was 2,365, a very healthy number, one that bodes well for them getting experience onto the field as sophomores and third-year players that will help them with their bottom line and the cap. That's going to be very important. Now, here's another one. 49% scoring drives. That is all told, 76 out of 156, again, for third in the NFL. That's how efficient this offense is. Is it very explosive? It's the most explosive when you look at the number of big plays. But overall, play-by-play, drive-by-drive, the whole season, even those last couple of games where people are complaining they didn't score well enough, they didn't win by a big enough margin, this is what it tells you all told for the season. And that's what you can rely on when everything resets here this bye week and starts over for the next game. Now, that said, the pressure rate is something I've tracked all year long through the PFF numbers. This is not the same as some of the other reference sites because it is a little bit more straightforward, and that's why I use it. Ended up 49% in the NFL. I'm sorry, for the season. 10th in the NFL. It's why it's in gold there, not in green, because that's good. You'd like to be higher, but that is a dramatic increase over the last few seasons. And good enough to be a top 10 team in that category can carry you through and drive up the proficiency of the defense, which is at the end of the day what it's all about. Now, I want to dig deeper into a couple of aspects here, and it's about the ups and downs, the trials and tribulations of the season for some of these categories, and try to illuminate what we're looking at here come the playoff stretch after the Chiefs get through their first round bye. Now, that starts at the very top of what we've been tracking all season long with the offensive yards per play. And again, back to the previous slide, 6.4 here for the season. Good for third in the NFL. And you see how this worked. You see which teams gave them some trouble, which teams gave them no resistance whatsoever. And the funny thing is to look at here is really when you can look at Denver the first time and Denver the second time, very different outcomes. That is pretty unusual, to tell you the truth. Whereas the Raiders, the lone loss on this season here in Week 5, same offensive production in both games. That is also very telling. Also bodes well that against playoff teams like the Baltimore Ravens, 7.1, 6.4 right on average against the Buffalo Bills. We'll talk about them here coming up again in a minute. Against the Tampa Bay Bucks, way up here. This was actually 7.6, their high for the season. Looks like it got clipped here. And then you get into some of the teams like the New Orleans Saints. This was the toughest defense that they faced all season long. And this specifically shows you that in taking away the Chiefs' strength, because they haven't played the Packers, we can't do a direct comparison, but of the teams that they played, a lot of playoff teams, the New Orleans Saints are the ones that they should be concerned about the most. That's the toughest matchup based on what they've seen to this point. And so that's where we come back to. And as we go on, that's the offensive side. Now, the two key things that go into how you base your defense. Yes, it's coverage. They've had a good stretch playing a lot of hodgepodge configurations of the secondary. And it comes back to the pressure that they're able to build. This is what the Chiefs did when they ramped up in the postseason last year for the 2019 for Super Bowl 54. Super Bowl 55 will require the same ramp up. And as we look at how they got there, we see this. This is the total pressures per game as they went through this season. And again, point out a couple of things. Buffalo Bills, third highest output of the season. Carolina, we're not going to go there. Miami Dolphins, young tackles. Other than that, you see that the general trend line was up the whole season. And here's the key part, is the best 3-game stretch was right here to end the season. That is what's really important. That shows you what they're continuing to do. Now, again, we're going to throw out Week 17 because it wasn't starters, and that really changes the validity of comparing Week 17 to the rest of the weeks. So, that said, the general trend line is on the way up, and that's very important. Now, that's also very dependent on gameplay, on how the game goes. And so when we take that back a step farther and try to take a deeper look at what they did, how they got pressure, and what they'll need to do, this is where it becomes very, very important. Because it's not just about total pressures. It's about total pressures versus the opportunities to pressure, the number of dropbacks. And that's where we see the two key things that come into mind. Yes, you had high outputs against the Houston Texans, a team that, to say that they're in transition is putting it very, very lightly. Also, the same kind of thing about the Carolina Panthers. But the two key stats that stand out on this season up and down, and yes, there were ups and downs. You had some missing players in some of these games. You had, quite frankly, a loss of intensity at times as well. But the two keys are their best pressure per dropback was against that team, the Buffalo Bills, in Week 6, that everybody seems to think is somebody that can knock the Chiefs off rather easily. That is not the case. Josh Allen is a great quarterback. He's a guy that I've been standing on the table for from day one. He did not get a chance to throw that much in that game. The Chiefs were all over him when he did. That running game is going to have to carry them through should the Chiefs meet up with them, and that's something that we will talk about if that matchup ever comes to pass. But here's the second thing, is as you look forward out of the AFC and look beyond it, again, New Orleans Saints, one of the best performances of the year, certainly the peak of the last quarter of the season. A team that they may have to face because they're just that good. You were still able to get pressure on Drew Brees in particular. Taysom Hill did not get many snaps. I think they may change that going into the postseason. But this is two very big takeaways about how the Chiefs can produce not only on offense, but on the defensive side of the ball, and the fact that they have two rather historic matchups that through that game history of 2020 have to give you the idea that they are in a very good spot against those two particular teams. Now, the closest game by far was New Orleans, and that's something that we have to keep an eye on as we start through the playoff run. They will be up early. I want to know what you guys think. If you're not subbed, click the like and the sub and the bell notification. Does this make you feel better? Does this give you an inkling of just how good they are in terms of matching up with the playoff picture, no matter who it might be? Or does this give you a sense that, yes, they've had peaks and valleys, but the mean has been pretty good? I feel probably a bit of both, to tell you the truth, and I'm looking forward to your opinions on what you think the Chiefs are here in the bye week, as they don't have to prepare yet. When we know their opponent, will have a much more focused session on what they need to do. But that's it for this week. Thank you for checking us out. Hit the like and all that. We will have more film for you tomorrow, as well as the rest of the crew coming up. Thanks for your time today, and I'll check you next time.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more, and subscribe to RGR Football.